Since our clerk isn't here yet, I will call the roll. James? Here. Cindy?
Yes. Here.
Kim? Isaiah?
Here.
And I am here. All right, I have proof of posting. Will you join me for the pledge of allegiance? Pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. I have a motion to approve the agenda. Do I have a second? Thank you. All right, any corrections or changes that need to happen?
No.
Okay, hearing none. All those in favor, aye. Opposed? Do I have a motion to approve the meeting minutes from June 1st?
I'll second.
Thank you. Any corrections? James?
Yes.
Cindy?
Yes.
Kim?
Yes.
Isaiah?
Yes.
And I'll vote yes as well. The motion to approve the payroll and disbursements.
So moved.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Any questions?
Yes, I have one. Did we have a Crystal Apple Award winner?
Yes, we do.
Yes.
And who was?
That would be Diane Rocky.
Cool.
Well, Crystal Apple in terms of retirement. I just want to clarify, that we provided the Crystal Apple for our retirees.
Oh, got it,
So
okay.
it's not like that.
Not
It's
the,
not like an award?
not NBC 15, I believe, no.
Okay.
No,
That's
Okay.
what they're at.
sorry, Kim.
Any other questions? Hearing none. James?
Yes.
Cindy?
Yes.
Kim?
Yes.
Isaiah?
Yes.
And I'll vote yes as well.
How many do you need?
These all the same?
Yes. So just keep passing that.
Got one.
Oh, okay.
Oh, yeah. Go ahead.
President's report, we had a pretty darn good year with track. How many do we have go to state? Five. Thank you. And baseball's still playing, and they play again tomorrow night?
Tomorrow.
Tomorrow.
1:30, and if they win, probably 4:30.
Okay.
Well, that's sectionals. Sectionals is you got 3 games on one site, you got to win 2. Kind of a fun format.
Cool. So, Mark?
We hosted today with the Dane County Sheriff. Sheriff Mahoney was out here, Texas Teen press conference, so Dave Haas and Alex Dons were available for that. Had a wonderful Wolf Run Trail grand opening. Just amazing how many different groups that trail has brought together. Also would like to announce tonight I'll be nominating the Wolf Run Association for Standing Up for Wisconsin, Rural Wisconsin Schools. It's a DPI award, and would get the nominations in by mid-September. I'll hopefully get it in the next week, and then presented at the Rural Wisconsin's conference. So I want to share that I'm nominating them for that. 8th grade promotion ceremony was today. It appeared everyone survived the festivities. Yeah, state track, we were fortunate. We had a state champion in the 800 wheelchair, Brendan Ojibwe. Some of you will know his grandmother, Mary. He's a student that attends Barneveld, co-ops with us. He's also second in the 200 big PR. Rachel, biking, had a wonderful season, 2 school records, was in the finals for disc. Megan Herring, school record, sub 60. Ricky Williams was consistently approaching 21 feet. I don't think he ever got there. I could be wrong. And I forget, Parman uncorked a huge jump on the on the 6 jump at sectionals to get to state. I think he went 43.8, which is pretty cool. So, yeah, baseball tomorrow's at Ossios, so everybody attending should stop for pie at the Norski Nut. Otherwise, the big deal is, state budget should be on the floor this week and talking to Senator Rupenbach's #1 aide. So I think things will be moving. There'll be some clarity, and as Aaron and I, well, we'll talk about it in the working budget. Right now, we are still unsure of what the revenue, they've said it, they've put into the budget means, and we've planned accordingly. Thank you.
Okay. Do we have sign-up sheets someplace? Yes, please. Thank you, sir. All right, Mr. Pete Jopke.
Just a couple of questions from the board, relating to the letter that was sent out, recently with the top 10. And I wanted some clarification on number 8 about the civics assessment. Is that something that you're against, or what was the reason?
Unfunded mandate. And our students just finished US government. The class of 2017 just finished US government. So, bad timing.
So do you think a 100-question civics exam would be too much to ask our students?
Well, it's the ability to provide education first before testing them is our philosophically.
So you don't think that they're being prepared on what this country was built upon?
Well, would you like a test on something you weren't provided instruction on?
I'm asking you, are you providing instruction on it? Is
Well,
it
we
part
are,
of your
but we
US
don't know
history?
what
Is
the-
it part of your law course? Is it part, that's what I asked for from ASA today. Is it part of your US history, social problems? current issues?
US history. The teacher currently teaches it, so we should be okay, but again, we'd like to have targets for our employees and our students, and so we're concerned that it's unfunded mandate at a time frame that is irregular with the instructional process of Wisconsin Heights.
Do you know that 97% of naturalized citizens pass the test?
Yeah, absolutely, but again, philosophically
And
speaking.
6 out of 10 schools can't pass it.
Okay, well,
The basic of our government, the basic of what this country was founded on.
well, we'll see how Wisconsin Heights does.
Well, I hope they would do good. Anybody from the board like to comment on that? I'd like to hear your input.
Just another thing that they're throwing at us and not giving us any additional dollars. I don't have an issue with the test. I'm sure that, at least unless things have changed a lot since I went here, in US history, we were taught quite a bit of US history. So,
The reason I asked, and I'll just tell you, I took it just to see how I would do, not having been in school.
you failed it, didn't you?
I got 92,
Nice.
so I think it was important, I think it's important. And then the other thing I was gonna ask about the letter, there are multiple questions I had on it, but I'm sure you guys have, really addressed this previous, but, number 9, the rating system, references a motel, or a hotel rating system. And I was just wondering, what that is all about. Can you explain what the rating system or the stars would be? It's my understanding if I go to a hotel, it's not based on the service I get as much as it is the amenities. Do I get a hot breakfast? Do I get a whirlpool in my bedroom? So if you're looking at Wisconsin Heights, yeah, the reality is we're probably 2.5, 3, I don't know. We can't offer what other schools can. So I guess I wanted some clarification, or was hoping the board could answer the question on what the star rating system would be. It's because it says quality of our school, and I don't think that's correct. I would argue immensely that that is not a quality issue as much as it is probably a quantity issue. Am I right or not?
The reality is, no one has told us what the system is, and people are disappointed that the current system, which was built collaboratively by all employee groups, was pushed to the side. That's the issue.
That's the issue.
The problem I've got is you've got one rating system already, and now it's gonna be, could be changed, could be something different. You know, there's, the standards that were set from the last, previous years are one thing, and now, you know, with, I mean, you've heard Common Core, you've heard, I mean, there's just, you go right down the list of all these different things that they're talking about rating a school on. Well, okay, great, but give us what we're gonna need to make sure that we're meeting what these new tests are instead of meeting the educational needs of the students. So that's where I have issues with things going back and forth in different rating systems, different testing, different standards. Let's just pick one and stick with it. That's the issue I've got.
Yeah, I think the thing that struck me was the term quality, because I don't think quality is an issue here. I think everybody does a fantastic job. And I didn't want that misrepresented, and that's the way I read it. So I stand corrected if I misinterpreted it. And I guess the last question I had would be, I know there's a discussion item on here about compensation for administrative level. I'm just wondering, does the board employ an objective analysis? Do you set benchmarks for your administrative team on what they should be doing on a yearly basis? Is there something there quantifiable, or is it all subjective? And if it is quantifiable, could you give me an example of something that you would rate an administrative level employee?
There's goals for every employee of the district. And, you know, it ranges from everything. I mean, it goes from teachers all the way up to Mark.
My evaluation is board policy, and it's an exhibit.
It is. Do you think that's a good way of doing things? Are you getting the best that you need out of that criteria, or do you think there could be improvements? And you be on the board, rather than Tom, I'd like to hear from somebody else. Sorry, Tom.
That's all right, because I'll answer it for you.
I know you will.
There's always ways to improve on things, and obviously you want to have them as quantifiable as possible, but the unfortunate reality is we deal with people, and sometimes that is not the easiest thing to rate, especially people who work with kids or people who work with, you know, adults who are teachers too. So quantifying that is very difficult in and of itself. But I think we do have really good quantitative measures out here, at least I believe we do. The exhibit, I've challenged it a long time ago, and I think that obviously we're trying to make improvements to it. We're, you know, doing exit interviews, things like that. We're trying to gather more information. It's how we use it that's, you know, gonna make the difference.
And not that subjective data is wrong.
Right.
But I'm just, you know, this is a topic of discussion here. We just went through a referendum, and there's a lot of talk going around. And
Well, the hardest part you gotta remember, especially just being an educator myself, is that every single class is different. Every class comes in, presents its opportunities, presents its challenges, and if you're looking for a quantifiable thing to measure, you're never gonna get the same thing every year.
I understand.
And individual growth is what you're looking for, and that's what we all aim for, but at the same time, it's like, sometimes.
And as a qualifier to my statement, would I keep my kids here, would I send them here again? Absolutely. No problem whatsoever. Our education system's just not. Okay?
Cool.
So,
Okay,
thank you for your time.
thanks, Pete. Isaiah?
I would like to talk about the mileage issue, like not the issue, but just kind of come to a consensus on mileage. And if I was willing to get it on the board agenda, can I do that? Or at least in closed session possibly? Because I just would like to have the board as a consensus.
Can't be closed session, but we can talk about it.
Okay, maybe next time.
Well, Jim had asked that he had conveyed that he would like to be present, so I think he'll be here on the
Okay,
27th.
that's fine, wait for that then, perfect. That's it.
I don't think he will. I thought he said he was gonna miss the next two.
Or maybe, we'll talk about it when he's
We're
here.
gonna do it in July.
Okay,
It's already been, yes,
predetermined, so that's,
yeah,
so that question is old then, thank you.
yes. All right, district business capital projects, discuss possible action to approve bids on middle high school pavement project.
Yeah, Pete, if you could take it and pass it.
Oh,
Oh,
yeah, I did, hold on, back
No,
up.
sorry, yeah, we're not, yeah, you skipped a couple.
Yeah, sorry.
They may have been
Budget and
happy,
finance.
but yeah.
We're gonna screw up the order a little bit. Budget and finance.
Alright, I don't know how in-depth you want us to get into the working budget, but this is the one that we approved that's in front of you. The biggest things that we talked about was under 540, which is our building capital project. You'll see that there's a big jump from 14-15 to 15-16. And that's basically because we're only covering 30% of our HVAC project in the 14-15. And then we have to cover the other 70% plus 100% of the pavement in that second here. So there's a big difference there, but that's why. The other one is in the 827, which is the interfund transfer to Fund 27. There's a jump there because that's covering our additional special education staff that we just approved, plus our services coming from CISA.
Right, as well as we've, a few additional support staff that we had as general curriculum that we've moved to Fund 27 based on the needs of our students in 15-16 on top of some of the new positions that we're adding. And to note, off of what James had mentioned, based on conversations with HSR, we're hoping to get about 30% of the project completed by June 30th, but until June 30th rolls around and we figure out how much work they actually get done, right now that's just an estimate of how much work we're hoping to have completed through the Parker portion of the HVAC project that you guys approved last time. So again, that's guesstimates as of a snapshot in time right now, so that certainly can change by the time June 30th rolls around.
Okay.
So you'll see we carry a pretty big fund balance for 2014, 2015. We would prefer that it not be quite that high, but we just weren't able to get complete spending.
Yeah, we tried to get the roof done last year, tried to get the pavement and the HVAC done earlier, and, you know, I think we're on the right track, but that didn't get done, so this is extending out 1 year.
So then in 2015, 2016, it gets down to 26.17, which is kind of where we want it to be. If you turn the page, you're going to see, well, what Aaron kind of was signing on or erring on the side of caution for the 15-16 budget based on the fact that the state hasn't really figured out what they're going to do yet. So it's kind of hard for her. So she's basically doing worst case scenario, and I appreciate that because at least we know where we're at.
Yeah.
But we're
Well,
hoping.
there could be always a worst case scenario based on what happens, so I wouldn't go quite that far, but, big things, yeah, best guess at this snapshot in time. Basically using the numbers off the February governor's proposed budget as far as, excluding the categorical aid for next year, that came off in that budget. It does not factor anything as far as, anything in the JFC motions as far as potential budget changes. Again, basically just working off the governor's proposed budget as of February. And it also does not factor in any adjustments based on the property detachment. And I talked with DPI and the municipality and the land office, and the DPI has to finish their paperwork by June 15th, so they said I should have something in my hands around after that date once they have theirs finalized. But they said the Department of Revenue will be the place that will be able to give me a better idea for impact. So I have not gotten a response back from them after leaving voicemail. So July 1 aid estimate will probably be the closest time that I'll have as far as looking at what the property detachment will do as far as our total equalized value, which equates into our equalized aid. So July 1 might be projected timeline of when I'll have some, and obviously the state budget will hopefully have by then. So again, this is a very draft budget of what next year may look like based on the information we have at this time.
Okay.
Other things we talked about was we recommended no raise in fees as far as registration or parking fees. It is our recommendation that we raise the prices for the lunches by 10 cents, just because we don't want to not raise it, and then a couple of years from now we have to jump it up 75 cents. But that's something we definitely feel like if you guys want to talk about it, you can, but that is our recommendation. And then the last thing we talked about was going paperless in the business office, and specifically what Aaron's referring to is how we are writing out checks to a lot of people, and then we're putting them in envelopes and we're sending them out to people, and if we could get everyone or as many people on direct deposit as possible, that will eliminate some of the steps that we have to take. So she said that she was in touch with Isaiah and the policy committee to make that a policy, and then we'll kind of go in that direction to cut down on paperwork and all that.
I thought everybody already had to be on direct
For
deposit.
payroll. This is moving now to the AP side of it for vendors,
Oh.
so for
Oh, okay.
officials, busing, you know,
Okay.
stuff like that, so.
HSR.
HSR, yeah. So, yes, you're correct. For payroll side, yes, it's mandatory, but we don't have that for AP yet, so that's where I'd like to move next step.
Oh, okay.
She's given us a kind of a 2-year plan too as to how to implement this, so it won't be tomorrow.
Right.
Hey, we're gonna do this. Hey, let's.
Erin's been patient with this plan.
Well, she said potentially, you know, when it comes down to it, someone has to stand there and stuff, what would you say, like 50 or 75 envelopes? Is it more than that?
Well, we have roughly, 100 checks each board approval, plus throughout the month, utilities that come up that have to be paid, before that. So, that's a lot of time to print a check, print a voucher for it, staple all the paperwork together, stuff the envelope, mail it. We're talking paper, we're talking check costs, we're talking postage, we're talking time. And I just think we can better utilize our resources to other things that we need in the district than stuffing envelopes and pushing paper and filing paper, so.
Cool.
Yeah, that's all I got.
All right. Employee Relations Committee, we met with we had a meet and confer with the teachers union this evening. They shared with us, and not in any particular order, but they gave us 5 areas of concern with the staff. One was recognition, more along the lines of personal or individual, coming from like a administrator, whatever, something along that line. And last year we had negotiated that there would be a step at 10 years of employment. They wanted to bring back a step at 1 in 5 years. And prep equity was another. They said they've got some teachers that are teaching like 3 or 4 different types of classes during the day, even though they're all semi-related. And then you've got some that are teaching 1 or 2 subjects, the same subject throughout the day, and they wondered, they wanted to know if there was something we could do for that. They wanted one of their concerns was to bring back early retirement language somehow, and they had brought up professional development, that there is no money available, was their terminology. So those are the 5 areas of concern from them. We'll have to meet again to discuss wages.
Can I ask a question of clarification? When they said teaching different courses, and you said the fix for that, did they mean changing their assignment, or they meant being compensated
They
differently
With
for
their-
it?
being compensated.
Yeah, or we're given another duty.
Got it.
So I've done a little math on that based on our current, the most current schedule I have. And one of the challenges we had, and we've heard this for a while, is that when we went from schools of 400 and 500, there was a time in the middle school, if you taught middle school 7th grade, you taught 1 topic, and you had 2 preps. Because as we've gotten smaller, we have had multiple preps. Some of the things we've done in a couple departments, with science, we alternate, so 1 year AP biology, 1 year AP physics. That's rotated, that is the only department that rotates. So I've had a couple other conversations. What I will share with the board and will share with them is, basically, after looking at it for about 30 minutes, if we were to add additional prep time, it would be the equivalent of 2 to 3 teaching positions. And so there isn't the hope would be it'd be a cost neutral, but even when it doesn't cost you anything, it costs you time. The second part of that is that it, we just have to look at how we plan, and we'll talk a little bit more on stuff, got a little more information, but it's not, to be clear, there's not a quick fix.
Okay. All right, and since we already went out of order, we've got the public input taken care of. District business, capital projects, discuss possible action to approve bids on middle high school pavement project.
So Brad is here again. I'll go through where we're at, and then Brad can answer technical aspects. But we currently, on last Thursday, received 2 bids. That is in the board packet. We got a bid from Payne and Dolan, and then DL Gasser Construction out of Baraboo. The project was to scrape off all the existing pavement on site, and then in the, I'll call it the travel lane, or where, as you come through, where the buses go on the way out, that would be excavated, 12-inch base, make sure we have a base of 12 inches, and then 4 inches of pavement. Then in the parking lots and service entrance, so the remainder, which is 124,000 square feet, scrape it as described, and then apply 3 inches of pavement. So for, as proposed, that's $3.85 per square foot for the whole project there. There were also 4 adds. The one ad's an automatic with the, I'll call it directional island, that's 4,200 with Payne and Dolan. The other 3 were to educate us in terms of what would happen if we had to excavate the other 3 parking lots, if you will. We have some concerns about the middle school parking lot based on performance. So planning considerations moving forward. How do we determine if excavation is required in other areas of the lot? Are there areas of the base bid that could be eliminated to reduce costs? I'll explain that process. One of the other implications, an acre is equivalent to 43,560 square feet. Currently, the excavation is over an acre. And so one of the conversations that Brad and I had was there a way to get it underneath? And we could eliminate some things, but the challenge is if we run into a problem with any one of the lots, then we're back over the acre, construction stops, DNR permit issues. So when we started planning this, and Brad's been coming here for the better part of a year and a half, at that time we were wondering how our HVACs were performing, but we didn't know Mesa Mania HVAC would fail. It failed. We knew it was failing at the end of the fall, but the pavement project, in essence, was going to be a scrape job and replace, and we probably wouldn't do any roofing. That was kind of the conceptual aspect. So on the second page, I guess so we, in the end, I guess I'll add a little bit more. So based on what we have in fund balance and some budgeting, we had thought our initial budget between the 2 projects would be about $800,000. Currently, HVAC, the project itself, if no contingency dollars are used, we're probably right around $215,000 plus management fees, which the board has already acted on. So that, the remaining dollars is $585 in terms of that. I'll call it the $800,000 budgeted. And I know that's a huge number. If I sound casual, I just want to reiterate, this is absolutely a big number. No doubt about it. The challenge that we have here is we have a poorly performing pavement system out here. And the thing that's different than a lot of our projects that we've done in the past is there's some unknown. The moment we start scraping, we may run into something we didn't anticipate. So to answer the question first of how do you determine whether or not excavation is needed? So I did some independent research, talked to another local contractor, and then confirmed with Brad, was we would scrape everything, and then the test is to run a quad axle dump truck fully loaded, and basically if there is no wave action on the base rock, we're in good shape. If there's wave action, then we need to excavate that area. That's that component. Is there a way to reduce costs or cap costs? And so I'll kind of go to the recommendation on the back side. So the first step is we have to identify, if we choose to, we have to identify a little bidder, which is Payne and Dolan. So we could accept them as a low bidder, and then we could, and there's a positive there, they make their own payment, so there's not a pass-through fee if they're purchasing it from somebody else. They also have, and we also can work directly with them on quality assurance. So, what I'm recommending right now is approve the base bid, $659,950, plus a contingency of 15%. Usually it's 10%, but because we have an unknown for a sum of $760. I believe what this allows us to do is to then, with the approval, go back to Payne and Dolan and talk to them about reducing the scope of the project. So we're guaranteeing them work up to the base bid. However, we are able to reduce our, how should I put it, our exposure, and also just to limit, to set a cap at this time at $760. Now, the other cost that could be involved here is DNR permitting. And talking with Brad, the numbers, if we had to make bigger retention ponds, that could be, the $20,000 to $50,000, pretty standard. We're fortunate that our drainage is pretty good, but again, I am not a permitting specialist. So if we went at $760,000 with the contingency, and again, the contingency they would have to demonstrate there's a deficiency to access that. That would be a change order. That wouldn't be one day Payne and Dolan calling Brad or me saying, oh, by the way, we did some extra work, so here's the bill. The contingency is all driven on change order. That's in the contract, standard. It would be $4.44 per square foot. And then approving, they approved me to go ahead and negotiate with Payne and Dolan and finalize the contract. In the end, you would, that's kind of where we stand. The conversation about delaying the DNR with permitting, that could throw us into the having a gravel parking lot in the fall. So if we rolled the dice, we could get a delay and that would result. So, unfortunately, there's not a effective way to strategically reduce excavation under 1 acre based on the scope. But that's where we're at as of now. So, Brad, do you want to add anything?
Oh, I think you hit everything, Mark. The other thing that we'll make sure is, a lot of times in the bid documents, we'll have testing required by the general contractor, in this case, Payne and Dolan. We didn't do that here because we thought it'd be more prudent for you guys to get an independent testing agency that will help you find, and so we'll be looking at the project during the construction as well as this testing agency that you'll get some quotes for, to really monitor the compaction of the project as we work on it, as we go on it. And so that'll be ongoing, and that'll help us determine, obviously, too, how much extra or maybe how much less we might need to do in some of these instances. But our main focus was to make sure that that road, what we're calling a drop-off area, all the way through to Olson Road is quality. That's why we're going 12 inches and 4 inches of paving for the heavier traffic area. Okay?
Has anybody ever worked with Payne and Dolan?
They're a major group.
Yeah.
Good.
Yep, yeah.
Actually, an alumnus from Wisconsin Heights is the one that did this, so. The total figure, do you want not to exceed?
Sure, yeah, $760,000.
So the one area that Mark and I had talked about after he received the bids is the high school faculty area where they parked in the back of the school, right up that way. That's one of those areas that, we kind of commit, as Mark addressed, we kind of commit to a certain scope of work. And, we'd have to, that's what he's talking about, possible negotiation to maybe if we eliminated that area or whatever, what what would that look like? Is it possible? You know, that scope of things, so.
And the other part of it is with the new downspouts, which, you know, we have one door, Kim Hauser's door, the A classroom door. We probably at times may wanna reroute, the water, and so we may be looking in the future to bury those downspouts, so by delaying the high school teachers' parking lot, you know, it'd be a smaller scoped project, but by not repaving, then we're not disrupting an area, and that would, you know,
Or tearing it up again later if we
absolutely, yeah,
wanted to change it, so.
better said, yep.
Mark also brought up that with the roofing project being mostly done, and if we address the parking lot, those are your two big expenses. And if you have them done, and kind of, so you don't have to worry about them for a while, that frees you up to do other things in the next few years when we don't know where the budget's going.
Yeah.
Just thought that was a good point.
The nice thing is that there's more assurance that a parking lot is gonna hold up for 20 years than a roof. All right, any other discussion? Do I have a motion to accept Payne and Dolan's bid, base bid of $659,950 plus contingencies with the total project not to exceed $760,000?
So moved.
So, 600?
Or
700.
760, did I say that wrong? I apologize. 760,000.
I think he said so.
I'm just
Whatever.
double checking now.
Yeah.
That's
Okay.
okay.
All right, Kim, you firsted.
First.
Do we have a second? Thank you. All right, any other discussion? Hearing none. James?
Yeah.
Cindy?
Yes.
Kim?
Yes.
Isaiah?
Yes.
And I'll vote yes as well. End of year administrator reports. Asta, middle high school.
Okay, so, this year celebrating 50 years and cohesiveness, school family cohesiveness has been a theme for our year. Any chance that we could, we tried to express the importance and significance of our school district's history. Began with homecoming week and treasuring and recognizing our alumni, recognizing the celebration in many public venues, including painting the rock, hanging banners outside our school, promoting the 50 years by our emblem on the handbook cover, along with an awesome yearbook, if you've seen it, kind of the traditional, on the outside, the old emblem, the new emblem, very cool. We tried to publicize the Vanguard Pride throughout the year. It also was, I would say, a challenging emotional year for all of us on many levels. We spent a great deal of time practice this year in preparing and living through our first full year of educator effectiveness in the teach process. Been a huge learning curve for all the staff, and although sometimes frustrating and time consuming, it at least helped us unify as a staff and gave us multiple moments to reflect together as a staff about our profession, as well as the community at large's perception of our profession. It promoted a lot of dialogue in our staff. And frankly, to me as an administrator, because there was just an incredibly insane amount of newness and work, I have to say one of the really cool things that came of all this is the support and kind of producing a new teacher leaders that took the bull by the horns and started coming up and making a support network, frankly, to their administrators. And that was very cool. So then we also, at the beginning of the year, braced ourselves and challenged ourselves to be the most flexible teachers that we could be with a fall full of the disruptions of the roofing delays. It pushed us to our limits, and yet our teachers and students put on their best efforts and got through. Again, you know, it's just kind of like anytime there's any kind of stress and frustration, it kind of brings us all together. We had shared multiple afternoons of necessary dialogue to help relieve our stress, and a lot of people, just work together. So, and we made it through. On the other, again, kind of going on the personal note, many staff members endured, had a lot of personal stories this year. There were personal tragedies and also some real, a number of eventful moments, babies, deaths, and a lot of this that included us improvising as teachers and substitutes and jumping into classrooms. And I have to say, if there's one thing kind of school culture-wise that I had to put my finger on this year, is between the roof and all the personal stories and the whole educator effectiveness, is how everybody kind of not only supported each other, but saved each other on multiple times. And it was just, it tore at the fabric of our core sometimes, and it's just the absolute best of Wisconsin Heights came out. Just the personal, the thing that everybody talks about, the family. It was really, really strong this year, kind of adversity. So, it was a good thing. And so, on top of that just, the unspoken tragedy that touched our lives in this small community, the resounding support and tight embrace that we felt and participated in to get through this tragedy that rocked our core, truly spoke to the depths of what our school family is all about. Everyone jumped to each other's aid, and we got through it this year. It's still an ongoing anchor that we have to carry, but we carried it all together and lightening the load for each other. It certainly demonstrated the strength and resiliency of our students, staff, and community. And you can't diminish the actual, value that it's an educational moment for the students to see that their teachers, a lot of them went through this, personal heaviness as well. That was, it touched a lot of people, and this, you understand I'm talking about the shooting. And it was an education for all of us, and including the students. The other thing, though, that it did is it promoted even more spirit, the cohesiveness. The students became really well involved in Midwinter Week. That is usually kind of a half-half week, but it became a pretty big week. And then Student Council, who was doing a fundraiser for the Mazomanie Food Pantry, there was someone here, a philanthropist, that happened to be at one of the games. And unbeknownst to us, I kind of know who the person is, but remained anonymous. So twice throughout the year was so impressed with our Student Council's, just work and energy and enthusiasm, donated $8,000 for them to once $3,000 and once $5,000 to present to the Mazomanie Food Pantry. Just handed them a check and said, "You guys are doing a great job." So for the fact that the Student Council gets to take this check over there and say, "Hey, we raised $8,000 for you," it was just all around. So again, it's just that spirit of cohesiveness. And also, 2 students won the TV15 competition for the marketing video on texting and driving, and they won a little monetary fund for themselves and $1,000 for the school. So, those things were all perks that were just wonderful this fall. Technology has been a huge area of discussion, also changed this year. The teachers and students continue to use the Gmail and Google Docs, as well as new LearnPads and other forms of growing technology. We've had lots of trial runs and excitement for all. We're still kind of in the newness era, but it's continuing to amaze to me, the youth of the new staff, kind of the youth of it, who has grown up in this culture. I have to say, this is the first time I'm starting to feel like, because I have to work and study and concentrate on what this new program is, I never had to before, and you can just tell that some of the new staff that we hire, this is like second nature to them. And it's just turned things around, not only for me, but I think some of the veteran staff is just like, "Okay, teach me." And, so that's been kind of cool too, you know. We just finished up some interviews this afternoon, and they're, you talk to them about technology, they're telling you stuff that you've never even heard of. It's like, mhm, yep. So anyway, it's really kind of cool to see the new young staff. In curriculum, I know Amy will talk a little bit more in detail, but our language arts and math departments spent a great deal of time planning the new textbook adoptions and discussed at length about common vision within those departments. And our school-wide SLOs that we've been working on have also been connected with some of these new curriculum adoptions. Our continued intervention program continues to evolve and has been invaluable to the growth of many struggling students. So the interventionist was hired to work intensely with a group of struggling students to build a solid base of math and reading comprehension so they may continue to progress toward catching up academically. One thing we noticed is some of the incoming student population continues to make a noticeable turn as they're coming in to a more diverse academic population. So we're ramping up our efforts to address all of those diverse needs. But continuing on some of the, really competitive students, there were 58 AP tests taken, and it still continues to be the largest ever number of AP tests taken. And even with our hiccup a little bit in our language arts staffing this year, the students came out in droves to take the tests and feeling very confident. We still don't have the scores, but feeling very confident in pulling off those tests. The instrumental program, choral program, growing and flourishing with multiple state winners at State Soul Ensemble, and also the Visual Arts Classic. The art program is really growing, really flourishing. We had students signing up for this coming year. The art program just flooded over. There were 3 classes I couldn't offer because there were just so many kids. You know, we just don't have the manpower, but it's just, they're really excited about art, and we had 2 top conference contenders in our conference for the Visual Arts Classic. Continues to astound me, these are the opportunities that our school provides simply from a cultural experience. The Washington DC trip that now has gone twice as 8th graders has now become a staple. Very successful, and Mary Kay Deese, who is one of the people who spearheaded, and she's retiring this year, has told me that she feels it's so worthy that she's willing to come back and run that program if we ask her to. So anyway, that's been a really great experience for the kids. The music trip to New Orleans was a first, with 40+ students participating. The FFA to Kentucky and their national convention, the field ecology to Yosemite. I mean, for a small school, that we really give them some really wonderful cultural experiences. Scholarship night, also 33 graduates were awarded scholarships totaling $24,500. I know Rich will talk a little bit more about athletics, but we did have outstanding athletics season and multiple school records broken in track and field this year. We've had a Cole Award winner, Teacher of the Year, Dawn Schlick, and also a couple of people, Mary Kay Deese, 37 years of contribution to our school district. We honored her at the 8th grade transition ceremony today, and I just happen to add one little thing. We're also incredibly thankful for Mackenzie Deese, who is Mary Kay's daughter, who came in and stepped in and just saved our English program at high school for Kathy Haig, who had gone on kind of an emergency maternity leave. And so we're very, very thankful to her. She did get a position in Janesville. We're happy for her. I just want to give you one comment that a parent had asked in that little transition time if we found somebody, and I said, yes, Mackenzie Deese is going to be starting in teaching in a couple of days. and the parent said, "Is she related to Mary Kay Deese?" I said, "Yes, that's her daughter." She said, I wrote it down. "Oh, good, she comes from good educational gene pool." So, right away, that's, you want her to be her own person, but there was some automatic, phew, And I would say, for me, the biggest accomplishment, because in the end, this is what we are all about. This is the first year that we're still a week away from graduation. We do not have one single student on the bubble. Every single kid is graduating. We had one student who went to Challenge Academy, and I know Jim Schrader's not here, but he was his mentor, went up to Challenge Academy. He passed all of his tests, came back, did all of the added work for the JITO 2, and is going to be walking with us. So there is not one single kid who is even on the bubble, and everyone's graduating. So very, that's, in the end, that's what it's all about. So that's the news for moving on. So anyway, good year, some stress, but again, we shined from some of our moments of adversity. So. Any questions?
Thanks for keeping it all together, that's all I'm gonna say.
Very cool.
Yeah, this was more of a challenging year than just
Yeah,
because of
yeah.
academics.
Right,
So,
it was, to keep
normality.
seeing that goal and having all that other kind of just stuff going on, but, that's all part of education. It's like I put in my little email thing, life is a journey, and life is our education, so kids learned quite a bit of that. Good year, in the end.
Awesome, thank you.
Yep.
Rich, athletics.
Yep. I put together the handout from the coaches, some of their information for you guys to look at.
No PowerPoint?
No. I was in interviews today, I'm
Oh,
sorry.
okay.
Just starting in the fall sports season, and just wanted to go down through and touch base with all of these athletics that we had this year. When it comes to fall sports, volleyball regional champions, it's they got second place in the conference to Waterloo, who they eventually lost to in the sectional championship game. So outstanding year. The list there, they're all conference players, honorable mention, and then, of course, I list who the coaches for them. Football gives their record, and they're all conference players for position, defensive end or lineman, quarterback, defensive back, linebacker. So you have that that all conference list of players there. And cross country, Coach Bell has attached that. She wanted to do up a separate print up, and it was a little easier just to put it in there for you to see where they scored. For instance, in their first meet at basketball, there was no team scores kept. Monroe, they were 7th out of 7 for girls. Boys were 3rd out of 8. And so you can see as you go down through there, Lodi, River Valley, it just seemed to be, at times the girls were stronger, but yet it just depended on the competition. There were times where the boys did very well. Coral Baumkamp there was an individual champion at Reedsburg. And then you flip that page over for Coach Bell. It does tell you, as far as the girls did sectional wise and the boys, the girls, I believe they take the top 4, is that right, Mark, for top 3? Point wise, I know they weren't that far off. Mark and I were both there to watch that one. It was a great experience. Unfortunately, we had one of our young ladies go down that was doing really well, and she actually passed out towards the end, which could have been not that that was a deciding factor, but she definitely was in the race to give us some quality points that could have pushed it to a state level. It lists their all-conference participants right there for cross-country. Boys soccer, back to the front page. They had a couple of firsts this year, which I think are extraordinary. Well, all of these are extraordinary, but their first regional win, and we had that game at home. And then our first team all-conference, as Coach Holmes put to the best of his knowledge, and I believe Nate made an all-area team, which is definitely a first as well for Wisconsin Heights boys soccer. One of the questions that has come up, and you may not have heard it, or if you did, as far as soccer goes, there are certain dimensions that you have to abide by the WIAA. In the fall, boys soccer, we host a regional, can't be played on a multi-purpose field. So if there was ever that question, or people say, why don't you play it on the football field or athletic field, you can't play a boys soccer game on a multi-purpose field. It has to be set aside just for soccer. So we have to play on the soccer practice field, what we call the practice field. Well, if you look at our practice field, it's in pretty good shape. I think it's one of the best fields, even as a practice field. When it comes to the girls' field, it wasn't so much that we couldn't practice or play over here on the stadium field. It was more the dimensions, and the dimensions are the same for boys and girls. The minimum is 65 by 110. So to get us to that minimum requirement, we moved it over there, and it'll fit on the athletic field, on the main field. However, the boundaries, the boxes, the coaches, the team things don't fit. Then you end up on the track, or you end up, if you look at some of the dimensions of the soccer field, you're gonna be in the, kind of the, I don't know, you just have kids running in spots that aren't safe, running up a hill, which doesn't seem, but that field is crowned to drain for football. You put them on that practice field, it's a nice level playing field. So if there ever is that question about when we host regionals, why are we over there? Most of it's the dimensions for boys. It's about a multi-purpose field. You can't play on this one. And for girls, it goes back to the dimensions. So, and I know that question has come up to me multiple times. Even the River Valley coach we just played against for girls, and not to jump at the girls, he even sent me an email just saying, no offense, but why are you doing this to us? You have to. I mean, it doesn't work on our field. When he got here, he and I had a nice talk. He saw the field. He's like, you're right. It's got to be played over there. It worked out. It was a great game. It worked out for them. They won the game, but either way, it's the right place to play it. And our custodial staff does a great job maintaining that field over there. So that's the fall sports. We get to the winter sports. Boys basketball, again, you can see the all-conference participants there, but for the boys basketball team, they went 7-18 overall. I would say one of the more amazing accomplishments is that, they weren't picked to do very much even in the regionals. And you can see there, they ended up losing to the #1 seed by 5 points in the regional championship game. So it was back and forth all night. For those who made it, you saw that. For those who didn't, it wasn't like, oh, we just lost by 5. I mean, they had the lead going in the fourth, and it just went back and forth. And eventually they just, things didn't go their way. As far as girls basketball, great season. The girls won their regional bracket on the road. They did a great job. They went to sectionals in lacrosse, and unfortunately that didn't go so well. But with girls basketball, you lose 2 seniors who started or contributed in a positive way. But the main core of your starting group is back for at least 1 more year, and majority of those girls are back for 2 more years. So the foundation is set for girls basketball to do well. Boys basketball, I think we lost 2 starters. So again, we're young, but we're definitely in the mix of things for the years to come. Hockey, we didn't have anyone participate this year. And boys swimming, our co-op, we did have 2 students participate in that this year. Spring sports, the girls soccer team, Coach Holmes will admit, and if you watch them, they were rebuilding. They lost quite a bit of experience from last year, and they did lose in their regional game. We hosted River Valley, a heartbreaker. Within the last 5 to 7 minutes, River Valley scored a goal. You couldn't have asked for a better group of girls. I mean, great leaders as far as making it a team game. It's unfortunate they lost because they truly are what we ask of our students. They're student athletes. They are good kids, and then they're athletes. Mark touched on the high school track and field. Again, I don't want to, go into it too much. Mark did a good job summarizing. The other thing that I want to bring attention to is, Ryan did attach the all-conference list, but more importantly, when we got to regionals, after regionals, we sent 17 members of that track team to the sectionals. That was impressive to me. That when I got the text message that night, I couldn't make it, so she sent me a text and just said, Rich, we have 17 individuals or teams going. So I just wanted to let you know. And from there, as Mark pointed out, we had 5 individuals go on to our state, and Brendan got 2nd place. So overall, a great season for those guys, and again, a lot of quality kids coming back at track. And they were, I believe we're in the 60s. We actually had to order 6 more uniforms this year. We were short. And we're expecting the same turnout next year as well. Looking at baseball, the record doesn't reveal what they're accomplishing right now. They are playing with passion. They are playing to defend that state title, and they will all tell you that they're ready to win this thing again. They have a little chip on their shoulder. I don't know if you followed the rankings, if you look at the WIA brackets, based on how they were grouped in their regional, they ended up with a number 6 seed. That didn't set well with them because they had beaten the number 4 seed, and yet they still got ranked much lower. So the chip on their shoulder has been that we're going to prove some people wrong. So tomorrow afternoon at 1:30 they play Cambridge, and our goal is encouraging them that we expect them to be playing at 4:30, and hopefully come home with a sectional championship and a berth to state. But there are his all-conference nominations. Their meeting is actually going on right now, or this evening. Yeah, it's actually right now, so he may know that already. But those are the young men that were nominated for all-conference from baseball. Softball, we had I would say, a very promising year. We had Dennis submitted a few things there, and then he did submit a longer printout. I put it on the back just for you because I got it right before the meeting tonight. He went through quite a bit of information for you, but they had 11 individuals, and actually the 12th one, she paid to play. She was kind of their manager player, that she was always in uniform when she was available because she was the track manager as well. So when she was available for softball, she was their 12th player. She did have to play at times because of injuries, and with those 11 and 12 players, they actually won their 2 regional games here at Heights. They hosted, and then they won both. They went to Poinette. They had the lead on them, which was very encouraging, but unfortunately, it just didn't work out. And I believe the final was 8-3, but Poinette is also a state qualifier, a state champion of many years, and they are now back in the state tournament. Poinette is, as far as trying to earn another state championship. So potentially, we lost to a state champion softball team, but for an inning or two, Heights had everything to be proud of. We have a lot to be proud of, but they were right there in that game. As far as golf goes, going back to softball, they did nominate 4 individuals. 3 of them received either first or second team. We hosted the all-conference meeting this year, and there were 3 out of the 4 that did receive some kind of recognition. 2 first-teamers and a second-teamer. The 4th one, she didn't get any votes, and so it was just simply she was recognized by her coach as being nominated. And finally, golf. Dave gave you a summary here, a little bit of just looking at his statistics. Disappointing, not really. He's young. They're a young team. When he puts on their 6 out of 10 golfers were first-year golfers. That's hard to be regionally competitive when you have a lot of first-year golfers. The other thing he struggled with was the consistency of young men showing up. So that's something he and I are going to put in place next year, is that he could have his number 1 golfer be busy or have to go work, and he just wouldn't show up. And so we have to put some new parameters in there to help him out, to make sure that he's got a competitive team night in and night out. The last thing I put in there, just as a kind of a summary for you guys to see, is those are still the positions that are right now looking to be filled. I just want to kind of give you a summary of those, and that's what we're looking for as far as positions that we will be hiring. Hopefully, recommendations for July, right, Mark? In July.
That'd be good.
As soon as possible. So with all of that information, are there any questions that you have for me?
Just curiosity, the golf team, I know you said a lot of them are first year, were they freshman, sophomore, or was there more senior? How was the team made up this year?
I think it was a good mix. I don't know that it was senior dominated first year.
Okay.
Darren Esser or somebody like that whose experience was there. But I think overall, it was a good mix. I can't say that for certain because I know them, but I don't know necessarily what grade they're in. But I know Ben and Darren are seniors. But from there, I think we have a couple of freshmen, and I think there was a sophomore in there. But we had 10, and that's our goal, is to have that JV and varsity team again next year.
Cool.
Do we know the percentage of kids that are involved in like sports and after-school activities in the district?
Oh, that's a great question.
Because that's something we like to tell people too, because I know a lot of them are very involved. It's just something.
Yeah, Sandy completes that, we get that report later in the year.
Now, does that also include, is that just a snapshot, or does that include where we have multi-sport? Well,
I
in a way,
believe, well, no, there's two, and Rich, you're right, that if you do in one activity, they count, if you're in one, that's the DPI calculation.
right, right. So, and that's just another note that we are, I would say on average this year, and this is just my first year, is that between boys soccer and cross-country, between girls soccer and track, I would say our average is like 4 that play 2 sports, which is, you know, you think of the varsity commitment that it takes to do 1 sport. We have 4 that are doing 2 sports in the fall and in the spring. So I think that's pretty impressive. And knowing the young men and young women, they're maintaining their grades at a very high level. So we have all around great student athletes.
You know, and traditionally, co-curricular in general, whether it's athletics or other, we do incredibly well. I mean, we have 45 kids coming out for a musical. We have, you know, 9 ongoing kids who, unbeknownst to the rest of the school, every Thursday show up for chess club. You know, I mean, it's,
But those are the things that are awesome.
right.
Damn it.
Art club, there's 30 kids there Monday nights.
And
You
I'm
know?
working on getting varsity bowling going.
Yeah, so, you know, it's,
That's great.
it is a huge percentage of students who participate in something, if not athletics, also in some of these other smaller activities that other people don't always know about, but it's ongoing. We do really well here with that.
So any other questions?
What do you assess your first year? Are you happy? You got big aspirations for?
I have aspirations, yes. And some of those are just foundational things that we, you know, just to get those things into place, to get more of a sense of direction with some things. But, you know, I think personally, you have a diamond in the rough here that sometimes I think because we're so small, people tend to look at heights as, this is the game everybody gets to play. This is the game, I mean, we're all gonna get to play, they're not very good, or we have to go to heights for this track. And little do they realize that even though we're small, I think we pack a powerful punch. And I think you're seeing that enthusiasm spread through some, you know, to all, and not just athletics, but, I mean, the play, that was, I'm amazed. I've been to a lot of them and have to supervise them in the past, but our musical was just like, wow. We have a great group of kids, and I think that's like a hidden treasure that people just don't get. They just look at that little school, and I think we're making a name for ourselves. So there's some things we can all work on, and I think that includes me, but I think we're going definitely in the right direction. I'm looking forward to next year.
Amy?
Okay, I will start out with assessments. We had a ton of new assessments in the state this year, not just, you know, here, but throughout the state. So we started out the year with MAP testing, and MAP, of course, had to change the way that their format was a little bit. And so that didn't take too long to get a hold of. And then we went to ACT Aspire with the freshmen. And we only had a couple of glitches there that were easy to fix on the computer end, kids getting booted out and so forth, but we could get them right back in. And actually, when we got those scores back, we did quite well compared to the rest of the state in that sense. I would compare the ACT Aspire more like the Smarter Balanced Assessment in the difficulty of it. So I thought we did really well. It didn't look at it like it when you looked at our scores, but when you compared it to everybody else, we did quite well. Then we did the WKCE, and that was just science and social studies this year, and so that was much easier and quicker to get done, and we could get those done within those subject areas and so forth, and we did very well on both of those tests. And then we went into the ACT. The first time every junior in the state of Wisconsin had to take the ACT. And it's pretty high stakes testing, so there's a lot of things, guidelines that you have to follow and be in place. And so I thought our students did very well in the sense of taking it seriously and taking their time on the test for a majority of them. And it seemed like they really tried and everything. Because, you know, typically you take the ACT or you're going to college, you have that extra incentive in you to do well on it. And so I thought even the kids that knew they probably weren't going to college or hadn't thought about that direction still tried hard on it, and so forth. Then we went into the AP testing, and like Asa said, we had the highest number ever taking it, and I thought again as well, they tried very hard. We do not have those results back yet, so it'll be interesting to see how they do on it. And again, the English kids that all took the test, that was really nice to see after kind of a rough start this year. Then we went into ACT Aspire again. All freshmen and sophomore took it this time, so it's nice that we'll have data from spring or from fall to spring to see with our freshmen anyway, to see their growth throughout the year. And then sophomores took it as well. They are looking at next year ACT Aspire just being once for the freshmen, but we haven't heard back yet on that, and they would both be in the spring with freshmen and sophomore. And then we also were giving the Badger exam and MAP testing at the same time again. So these kids went from, you know, an ACT right into AP testing, right into ACT Aspire testing, MAP and Badger exam, all really within about a 2-month time frame. So the teachers did a nice job trying to be flexible and with scheduling and so forth, and the administrators tried to accommodate them the best that they could with the schedule and stuff, which was really tough with all that testing, trying to make sure that you weren't always missing the same class period and so forth. Badger exam went really well. We had hardly any glitches, I would say, just a few minor things. And they all got right back in and were able to finish it and complete it. And for the most part, once we got going, most kids took it in a reasonable amount of time because it was unlimited. So, you know, they could take it for 3 days if they wanted to, but that didn't happen. So, you know, the only concern there was that we were just testing the heck out of these kids. And so how well were they doing on that last MAP test after they just done all this ACT Aspire and Badger exam and so forth. So that's one thing. And I know looking forward into next year, there are some things that we need to really look at in the sense of who our proctors are, what time of day we're giving the test and so forth, that we're really going to try to work together and emphasize. Going into that, we adopted EduClimber around February, I believe it was, and we did have one full day, a half day in service on EduClimber, and he came in. We will be doing some follow-up with this when school starts again, but the teachers seem to really like it. Our interventionists are already full-blown into it. They've entered a lot of data already, and I'm working with them to enter some things that are created on our own as well, but it automatically grabs all those test scores, the MAP, the ACT, the APE, the ACT Aspire, they're automatically just put in there, and we can create all kinds of different graphs and things to look at. And definitely will help them in their SLO process for next year. It also has an SLO component to it, and so looking forward to that for next year in our second year of SLOs. We also will be getting, I believe, Build Your Own Curriculum. We haven't totally finalized that yet, but it will be replacing the Eclipse for next year. Eclipse only goes into the year 2017, and so we needed to find something to replace it. And it looks like Build Your Own Curriculum will be it. It has a lot of different functions in it for curriculum needs, lesson plans, different things, and we can also grab from other schools when it comes to those that teach the same things that we do and so forth. There's a sharing piece there, which is nice. And wanting to start that when school starts, so that when we start our new math and English curriculum, that we're starting from day one. That we got this new curriculum and we're going to be entering it into Build Your Own Curriculum the best that we can with all our new initiatives. The textbook adoption was huge this year. It took up a majority, I know, of my time. We did K-12 math, and we went with 6-12 big ideas and K-5 go math. We did K-12 reading, went to K-2 journeys, 3-5 benchmarks, and 6-12 collections. And we have a variety of trainings happening this summer, already starting on Thursday and Friday. We have 2 full days of training, so that the teachers have the summer to get going in that stuff. A majority of the material is here. I have 2 book rooms full of new textbooks if you'd like to go see them. I think my secretary and I will be very tired of looking at them after a little while here, but almost everything is in except for geometry and our novels. So we have a ton of stuff there. I thank you for adopting everything that the teachers really wanted to have. They worked really hard. We put a whole new system in for evaluating textbooks and so forth. We didn't really have a process in place. And so throughout the 2 adoptions, Mark and I worked together to come up with what that looked like, and going into next year, kind of tweaking things so that, we know what needs to be done first, then this, then this, then this, after going through these 2 big adoptions. And so getting ahead, I've already started ordering samples for science, computers, and Spanish next year, so that we can get that other work in place and then start evaluating the textbooks. So I think now that everything is in place, it will go much smoother. And also we created a inventory. We haven't really inventoried the books in the past, and so now my secretary and I have inventoried all of that, so the teachers will have a beginning of the year checklist and an end of the year checklist to check off their inventory, so we're not having textbooks disappear in all this money that we just spent. And so they'll, they're held a little bit more accountable for that, but it's good because then they're not missing a new teacher's edition when they need it and so forth. And I believe we've ordered enough for everybody to have the teacher's editions that need them, and so forth. With educator effectiveness, I really have to say the first year is completed. I will be looking at everything to make sure it's entered into the computer correctly before submitting it to DPI at the end of the month. But I do have to say, like Asta mentioned, it was a lot of learning, a lot of things they weren't used to, a lot of time, a lot of looking at data that maybe they haven't looked at before as in-depthly. But I really think that they had a positive attitude towards it. Yeah, they didn't know this and that, but they really wanted to learn, and I had probably 25 to 30 probably total EE times at their school to come and get help with it, and a majority of those were full, and they were asking questions, and like Asa said, they were helping each other, so the ones that had really gotten into it right away were helping others, and that was nice to see that they had that support back and forth with each other too. And we also had the educator effectiveness coaches who also went out and did evaluations of the teachers that did not come back to us. It was just to help them with the whole process of EE, and gave them feedback and met with those teachers after they evaluated them. And so that was nice to see, because I think they trusted them in what they said, and I heard some feedback when I went over evals and stuff with my teachers that they really liked that, and it was nice for somebody to point some of those things out before we did our evaluations and so forth, and said that they were right on. The new coach, the educator effectiveness coaches also did calibration with the administrators, and calibration is something that you have to do every year, but we'll have to do it in the fall and the spring next year, just to keep up on our evaluating, to make sure that we're keeping up with, we know what we're doing and with the process and everything else. And so everybody did a nice job on the calibration this year, and I know that for us it's like a big test that you're kind of scared of at 2 first, because you never know, you have to do all this and then you hit the button to know how you did, and nobody ever wants to hit that button, but this group did very, very well with it, and so they should be happy with that. Intervention program, Asa spoke a little bit about this. We have a new program at the middle school that we're still fine tuning and stuff, but I think at least we feel that we have something in place. We have a system with the new testing that has happened this year that'll give us even more data going forward to have more scores than just the MAP scores or teacher requests and so forth of getting into the program. So that should help I think really pinpointing the kids that really need the academic intervention. I also want to thank you for approving last board meeting our LLI interventions for the elementary school. This is something that they have been wanting and have kind of piloted this year. And so we got that ordered this last week, and they're looking forward to using that. The same with Reading Plus. Andrea in the middle school is seeing great growth with this program. The kids don't really seem to mind it, and I've watched them use it quite a bit, and so I just think it's a really nice program, and Andrea has some great progress that she has shown at the end of the year here. All of our interventions have shown great growth. Jordan just emailed me that the kids in Title are growing at a faster pace than the kids in Mountain Title, so I think that's a very positive thing. So hopefully we're decreasing that gap between the strugglers and the ones that seem to have it already. We also added Ames Web Progress Monitoring Tool, and that will help us with being able to use the LLI, and Vivian also was a great part in getting this to use. And so we took 2 days of training to get them, full days of training to get them trained on that process, and they're using it and seem to be doing well with that as well. Early releases and in-service. Everything this year was focused on current initiatives with educator effectiveness, the testing, the data. We did ALICE training this year. The whole staff is now, has been trained with that. Vivian brought in a behaviors therapist that was, I think, very good in dealing with kids with behavior. That was good for the whole staff. Not just our special education teachers are the ones that deal with them. We need to be able to deal with them in the classroom as well, and how to handle different situations. And so that was a pretty good session there. We had some K-12 content area meetings, and this is something that the teachers have requested more of moving forward, that they're able to actually have a K-12 social studies, math meeting, and so forth. And one thing that when Mark and I did the adoptions with the textbooks is that we have added every month that the math department and the English teachers will meet to go over how the new textbook adoptions are working, what do they need, is there more in-service and training that they need, talking together to make sure that they're utilizing it, basically the same way, or if they need help on a certain section from grade to grade and so forth. So that will be added, and we've kind of have leaders that have volunteered to help with that within the staff. So it's not always coming from administration, but we actually have some teacher leadership in that. The new teachers and mentors was another group that I had. They had monthly meetings, a use of a binder. We had some assessment discussions. And looking forward, I think we had a great group of new teachers this year. We had 11 new teachers. All of them, I think we did a nice job hiring. I think Dale would agree with that. And they just went above and beyond. They're not afraid to talk. They're not afraid to ask questions. They're very into learning. Many of them seeking, a master's degree in reading and so forth at a young age. And so I think that's really nice to see and beneficial for us, especially in the area of reading, that we have that many experts adding reading to their certification as well. And one thing that I think I would like to do with them moving forward is have a book study with them. That's something that at each meeting we talk about a certain section of that book, and it just kind of goes throughout the year and some initiative that we have, and maybe it's assessment or whatever. Because when I started that, it was amazing how they didn't really know how each other assessed, even within their grade level and stuff. They just hadn't had those conversations. So I think it's an area in the future that when we get these other things going that we're going to focus on. Curriculum, one thing that I would like to work on next year and having as a goal of my own is the work with learning targets and how that ties into things, and getting teachers to understand those and utilize them. We kind of introduced it this year. I believe the new teachers probably do it the most, but again, they've been trained in it in college and know what we're talking about, and some of the more veteran teachers haven't really been taught it the way that it's taught now. They probably use different terms and so forth. So we just need to all kind of get on the same page with that. Future discussions on classes. offered and the schedule. We'll be discussing those type of things moving forward. We will need to look at report cards and standard-based report cards. Kindergarten currently has a standard-based report card that's pretty good. And with our new textbook adoptions, we really need to look at our report cards and how they need to be updated a little bit to correspond with what we're doing in the classroom. Following through with the whole new textbook adoption and the process and the inventory, I think now having that in place is going to make it much easier from every year on moving forward, and a lot less time consuming as well. Also, we started the human growth and development process, looking at our curriculum. There are a lot of questions there, and so in our next meeting, we'll try to address some of those things. We're kind of behind on the updating of that, and so we're going to have several discussions before we can even move forward just about where we're at and where we need to be and comparing things. We've kind of started a spreadsheet on what's being offered where, and then we're comparing that to the state and the requirements, so to figure out what we're missing and what needs to be in place, and possibly spending some more time with human growth and development across the board. PBAS started in the elementary this year. They have their first year of training done. They did a trial this last month with hallways, and I think Dale will probably talk about this more when he talks next time, I think. But there was a drastic improvement, I think, in our hallways. Just when I visited and so forth, you could totally tell a difference from the time that they introduced that, even 3 weeks, 4 weeks later. And those teachers deserve a lot of kudos too, because they've been putting in a lot of extra time and effort on their own, making that happen. And they're just, again, a bunch of go-getters, go above and beyond what's expected, and really truly do a nice job with that. And I think it'll help with our behavior in our elementary schools. Training will continue for them in year 2 next year. And so, in a nutshell, that's kind of what's been happening in my world overall. So are there any questions?
All good?
All right, thank you.
All right, I'm going to take 2 minutes before we move on to the rest of this, so if you guys want to get up stretched.
Yes.
I'm warm.
Gotcha.
A gotcha ticket. I got 2 of them.
So is there no air conditioning? Or is it like everybody's cold so that they...
CPM's never had to.
Talking to them about the huge
I'm grateful for my job. I'm very grateful for
and like even like the district office for our finance meeting, but I don't know what's
I do it if I can live off the land. Take a chair back.
It's weird because up until like this year, this has been freezing. We were just seeing how much richer it was. Now, I don't know what happened. There's a bird something or something. I don't know.
But I think what they did was they put that money for May, so when they cut off everybody else,
I know.
shut this off, we have to pay for
I
that.
stopped being able to.
Jeff was like that last year. Yeah, Jeff literally couldn't stop. I couldn't stop. I couldn't bounce the tractor all day. He had to like stand up.
I'm borderline that I can actually get like seasonal food.
Yeah.
And like a little sweat.
That was original.
Rich over there, he's.
Oh, my goodness.
Amy.
Did you guys tell
What
them,
time does the afternoon session start?
did you guys tell them to shut off the air so you could fix the maze or
Which is
what?
where, this is where our wellness program. I'll just
Sweat off
say
the We have a pregnant lady that cannot sweat off any weight, so I'm gonna be hanging out in her
I
office.
drink water.
Crank that air up and
I don't either. I don't think for them.
So should I get President and ask.
All right, Carmen.
We're gonna put in a,
Oh,
into the budget
Tom.
for next year, new chairs.
Also, did you budget that, when you have to set aside money for
Did
vacation,
you
shut
turn
this
your
air
air
off?
conditioning off at 8 o'clock?
Did you guys shut this
Yeah,
air off?
that's
Just
really-
like, well, we got a piece of base, let's just shut the air off here.
Yeah, well, we gotta conserve where we can.
I know.
Crossbar.
So do we have a new dress policy, tank tops and flip flops?
Did you get the memo?
No, is that now?
That's the new, yeah, that starts tomorrow.
I'll be there.
Tomorrow at 11:40.
Tomorrow at 11:30.
I heard tomorrow.
That works. I'm good with it.
When you're cool all the time, right?
That's right, you have it going on. I'm like,
I like it.
and when you're hot all the time.
All right. Okay, personnel. 2015-16 compensation package, compensation for district employees. Discuss possible action on professional staff compensation for 15-16. Finding your packet on page, I don't know what page. Doesn't have a page number. Basically 2.5% is the recommendation.
Bill Sullivan and Catherine.
No, this is,
Before that, first
looks like,
Oh,
Do you have a motion? Kim? Did you?
Make motion to increase the professional staff contracts by 2.5% for the 15-16 school year.
Okay, do I have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, discussion? Hearing none. James?
Yes.
Cindy?
Yes.
Kim?
Yes.
Isaiah?
Yes.
And I'll vote yes as well. Discuss possible action on manager compensation for 15-16. Again, 2.5%. That would be Bill and Scott. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Thank you. Discussion? Hearing none. James?
Yes.
Cindy? Kim?
Yes.
Isaiah?
Yes.
And I'll vote yes as well. Discuss possible action on administrative assistant compensation for 15-16
So moved.
at 2.5%.
Yeah. So moved.
Thank you. Isaiah, you second?
Yeah, perfect.
Discussion. Hearing none. James?
Yes.
Cindy?
Yes.
Kim?
Yes.
Isaiah?
Yes.
And I'll vote yes as well. Discuss possible action on district administrator compensation for 15-16. Do I have a motion? The recommendation is 2.5%.
So moved.
Thank you. Do I have a second? I will second it. Discussion. Hearing none. James?
No.
Cindy?
No.
Kim?
Yes.
Isaiah?
No.
And I'll vote yes. I would just remind you that this is what our closed sessions are all about. Administrator contracts and compensation. Discuss possible action on amendments to the administrator contracts.
So moved.
Thank you. Do I have a second? Kim, is that you?
Yep.
All right, discussion? Hearing none. James?
Yes.
Cindy?
Yes.
Kim?
Yes.
Isaiah?
Yes.
And I'll vote yes as well. Discuss possible action on administrator compensation for 15-16. Again, 2.5% is the recommendation. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Discussion? Hearing none. James?
Yeah.
Cindy?
Yes.
Kim?
Yes.
Isaiah?
Yes.
And I'll vote yes as well. Discuss possible action on the 15-16 working budget. Do I have a motion to accept the working budget?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Discussion? Hearing none. James?
Yes.
Cindy?
Yes.
Kim?
Yes.
Isaiah?
Yes.
And I'll vote yes as well. Discuss possible action on claim involving a student.
Motion that we deny the claim involving the student.
Do I have a second on that?
I'll second.
Discussion? Hearing none. James?
Abstain.
Cindy?
Abstain.
Kim?
Yes.
Isaiah?
I have to abstain.
And I'll vote yes. Discuss possible action to end local property government insurance policy. Any motion?
So moved.
Second.
So this is to get rid of the, what used to be the general.
We have to end the local property government
Thank
insurance
you.
policy.
It's required to pass a resolution if you're
Yep.
gonna withdraw from the policy.
Okay. Discussion? James?
Yes.
Cindy?
Yes.
Kim?
Yes.
Isaiah?
Yes.
I'll vote yes as well. Discuss possible action to approve Chubb Insurance as the Wisconsin School District's carrier for property insurance.
So moved.
Do I have a second? Discussion? James?
Yes.
Cindy?
Yes.
Kim?
Yes.
Isaiah?
Yes.
I'll vote yes as well. Discuss possible action on WIA renewal application for 15-16. Do I have a motion?
So moved. I'll second.
Who firsted? Kim?
Either or.
Discussion?
Still don't like the WIA. At least I knew you were different on that. I feel the same way about that.
James?
Yes.
Cindy?
Yes.
Kim?
Yes.
Isaiah?
Yes.
And I'm gonna vote no. Just because I don't like them. Future meetings?
Policy in July. Probably the first one in July-ish. All set up, and then we did first stuff on, do we have we're still working on the medical form?
The 13th? The 13th, Isaiah?
Is that the 14th?
13th?
13th, that's fine. How long do you think it's gonna take with your stuff? Or how long?
It's
I
gonna
don't know
take
what
a
else
good
is
hour,
on
hour and a
there.
half.
Hour and a half. Okay, so
I don't know what else is on
6?
there.
6 on July 14th. 13th,
6? Did you say 6?
yes.
Any others that you need?
We have a curriculum set up for.
Next Monday, 2 weeks from, 2 weeks, 6 o'clock.
About that.
Okay, do I have a motion to adjourn?
Well, second.
All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 5-0.